Welcome to Australasian Airlines video tutorial on the Level D 767-300. This is our second video tutorial for the 767, and this stage will go from takeoff to top of climb. So this is just a follow on from the previous video. As you can see, we're lined up on the runway at Melbourne, runway 34, and we're flying to Sydney. Everything's up and running, we've programmed everything. So this is just a follow on directly from the first video. So the first thing you do is at the holding point, prior to actually pulling out on the runway, you need to turn your landing lights on. So that's these switches here. So landing light 1, 2 and 3. Okay, they're on, and also your strobe light. So that's that switch there. And turn your taxi lights off. Okay, so we've got that all set. So landing light switches, strobe light and taxi lights off, and you then request your takeoff clearance. You pull out into the middle of the runway, and then you're ready to go. Okay, so the first thing you would do is you would release the parking brake, and all you need to do is press this N1 switch here. So you don't need to use the throttle quadrant if you don't want to. You just push this N1 switch here, and the engines will then spool up. Now you can see over here on our N1 percentage, this is our ECAS. This is all our N1 readout. You can see here 101.5 above both engine, left and right engines. What that means is that's your actual N1 percentage, so it will not actually go over that. Even if you use full power on the throttle quadrant, the engines will not go over that set speed, because that is actually controlled by the onboard computer. So you don't have to use the throttle quadrant unless you really want to. All you have to do is press the N1. What you do then is once you get up to rotate speed, or V1 first of all, you'll hear the call out from the first officer. The call out will be V1 and then rotate, and then just pull back on the control column. You'll then hear positive rate of climb. You then put your gear up. They'll then say gear up. Auto brake off and flaps to 5 degrees. And then you've got to actually turn your autopilot on. Now it's very important that you get this right. In order for the autopilot to work correctly, you've got to make sure that you don't have any pressure on the control column. So you've got to make sure the control column's neutral. You can't have your hands on it whatsoever. It's just got to be set in the neutral position. And then you just press LCMD, LNAV and VNAV, and then that's it, you're on your way. Okay, so it's CMD, LNAV and VNAV, and making sure you don't have any back pressure on the actual control column. Make sure it's in the neutral position. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get underway. So we just release the parking brake, hit the N1. You'll see N1 AT auto throttle over here. You'll see the engine start to spool up on the ECAS, and then we just basically we just have to steer the aircraft on the runway. You'll hear the you'll hear the first officer will call out the different speeds. So you got 80 knots, and then you call out V1 and then rotate. So there's rotate. So just nice bit of back pressure, and then you'll say positive rate of climb. Hit the brake, gear up, auto brake off. Flaps 2 degrees, hands off the controls, left CMD, LNAV and VNAV, and that's it, you're on your way. Okay, and then you just have to look at the speeds. So here's your speed over here. It's got your different flap settings. So when you actually get to those speeds, you just basically retract your flaps in stages. And again, you'll hear the first officer doing all the call outs for your different flap settings as well. So flaps 5 and flaps 1 and flaps up, so on and so forth. Okay, so we can just do another stage of flaps. So that's flaps for 1. Okay, and at 210 knots you want flaps all the way up. So there we go, flaps up. Okay, so then we just basically the aircraft is now flying itself on the FMC. It's flying that route that we've already programmed into it, and you can see here on our multifunction display, you can see your magenta nav line. That's your actual route line. It's actually just going to follow that all the way into Sydney. So we're just climbing up to 35,000, which is what we set in the autopilot and the FMC when we programmed it. So all we're doing here is just basically just monitoring the systems, making sure that this VNAV and LNAV light don't go out. Sometimes they can go out. You can get what's known as an overspeed disconnect. Don't have to worry about that so much on climb. It can happen on climb, but mainly in the cruise and descent, especially if it's very windy. You can get an overspeed disconnect if you've got a lot of wind around. So it's a good idea just to keep an eye on those two switches as well. Now if you find that you do have an overspeed disconnect, you'll get a message here. This FMC message light will come on here. You'll open up the FMC, it will actually say overspeed disconnect, and you'll see your speed here will actually be well and truly up around 340, 350 knots. And there'll be some red bars on the side here as well, which tells you that you're actually in the overspeed part of the airspeed indicator. So all you need to do then is just put your spoilers on, and it'll just slow the aircraft down and bring it back to a reasonable speed, and then you'll be able to put the VNAV or LNAV light back on, whichever one has gone out. Usually it's the VNAV light that goes out. Okay, so we're just climbing up. We're almost at 10,000 feet. So at 10,000 feet, we actually turn the landing light off. So all the landing lights off and the strobe light off. So that's at 10,000 feet. Okay, and then we just basically just continue on up, and we just monitor the systems. Now our transition altitude is what we set in the FMC for 10,000 feet, which is where we actually change our altimeter to 1013, which you can see it's already at 1013 because I haven't actually got any weather loaded. But unfortunately Flight Sim uses the default 18,000 feet. So actually what will happen is once you actually get to 18,000 feet, you'll then have to reset your altimeter to the 1013, which you do by pushing B on the keyboard. So basically we're just going to climb up to our cruise altitude of 35,000. You can see in the FMC here, this is our progress report. You would have seen that in our previous video. So we've now got a top of climb here. We've got our actual time that will be there and how far we have until we get there. So that's 76 nautical miles, and you can see our different waypoints here. So our next waypoint is Docel. We've got 24 miles to run. We'll have 12.8 ton of fuel on board when we get there, and then it just goes into our next waypoint. So this is just our progress page, tells us how our flight's progressing, and we just leave it on this page for the flight. So as you can see, we've still got 74 miles until top of climb. So all we do is we just monitor the system, monitor the aircraft until we get to top of climb. What will happen is the aircraft will just level itself out at 35,000. It'll just basically fly itself all the way until we get to our top of descent. Now our next video tutorial will actually be from top of descent until actual shutdown at Sydney. So yeah, there's not really much more that we need to do in this actual in this video. All you need to do is just monitor the systems as you're climbing up to 35,000, and yeah, everything should be right. There shouldn't be too much you have to do in this stage. Just climb up to 35,000. The aircraft will level off, and it'll just do its thing. Apart from once you get to 18,000, you'll just have to reset your altimeter. But yeah, this is just a short video because there's not really much you have to do this in this takeoff sort of. It's the takeoff stage where you do most of your work, and when you actually get up to your sort of initial climb, so you've got turning your autopilot on, all that sort of thing, your gear up and flaps up. But once you actually get the autopilot on, the VNAV, LNAV light on, there's not really much else you have to do until you actually get to your top of climb, and that's pretty much it. So what we'll do is we'll end the video tutorial here, and we'll pick up the next video, or our last video will be from the top of descent, or prior to top of descent, until our actual shutdown. So yeah, thanks for watching. We hope you've hope this has been more information for you on how to actually get the aircraft in the air, how to actually turn the aircraft autopilot on and get it to actually fly the route on the FMC. So you can see here it's now flying the route. We're going to Docel, everything's beautiful, we're climbing to 35,000. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.